Hello, my name is Catherine Ho, and this is my chapter submission for impromptu speaking. Unlike more ambiguous characteristics such as that of personality or humor or sympathy, the nature of leadership is actually not a nature at all. Ultimately, it comes down to a question of nature versus nurture. Yet it is fairly obvious that leadership is something that must be nurtured, cultivated, and built upon. Actually, the answer to this question is fairly simple if we look to the goals of FBLA. Because it explicitly states that FBLA members must strive to develop competent and aggressive business leadership. If we are to develop something, must it not be a trait that can be developed in the first place? Furthermore, there are 3 reasons as to why leadership must be a learned trait. From the fact that we learn and develop leadership throughout our lives, and the fact that FBLA even exists, and the fact that leaders have hailed from every corner of the earth demonstrate that leadership is a learned trait. But more importantly than just realizing that leadership can be learned, we must actually learn leadership. As a society, we must encourage the development of leadership if we are to bring business and education together in a positive working environment for a better tomorrow. First, leadership must be a learned trait because we learn it throughout our lives. As we get older, we experience things and we have experiences and we have mistakes. And actually these mistakes are something that we can build upon because one of the best attributes of a leader is to foresee mistakes or problems before they happen and find ways to circumvent these problems to build a better tomorrow. But the only real way that you can foresee a mistake is if you've experienced it in your past. And that only comes with age. In fact, we can see this in the fact that many of our local, state, and national leaders are of older age. Because when you get older, you have the wisdom and the knowledge to lead us into a better place and a better tomorrow. So yes, leadership can be learned. In fact, we learn it every day that we live. Second, leadership must be learned or FBLA wouldn't exist. For us, Future Business Leaders of America is so much more than chapter competitions or awards or meeting people. It's a way to develop and cultivate your leadership abilities with people who also want to be leaders of tomorrow. In fact, FBLA is a way for us to celebrate the gains we made as leaders and to supply and supplement our leadership abilities. Because FBLA is much more than just a who's of leadership or leaders. Because if leadership is an innate trait, then that's all it would be. But we all know that FBLA is much more than that. FBLA is a way for students to cultivate and thrive in a situation or environment in which there are a lot of leaders, and it's a way for us to get together and plan for tomorrow. Because after all, we are concerned about the future of America. In fact, last but not least, leadership has to be a learned trait because leaders have hailed from every corner of the earth. From the swaddled, pampered Indian prince to the young future American president born in Kentucky, leaders come from so many different backgrounds. And it's impossible to say that these were all born with leadership abilities because if we look at it from Warren Buffett to Andrew Carnegie to Cornelius Vanderbilt, these are all people who didn't have the best upbringing, but they all found a way to be leaders of their day. And leadership is something that you experience and you build and you learn and you cultivate. Everybody can be a leader if we try and develop and we actually nourish our leadership abilities. In closing, I'd like to end with one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite leaders, First Lady of the United States, Eleanor Roosevelt. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you face fear in its face. You must do what you think you cannot do. And that's the beauty of leadership. Leaders are people who look fear in the face and tell them that they will win. And tell fear that the leaders will win. And that can only be gained through experience. It can only be learned. You can't be born with leadership. So as a community, we must realize that leadership isn't something that some people are just blessed with. Leadership is something that's developed and cultivated through our experiences, through our community, through our involvement in clubs such as FBLA. And in doing so, our society will be able to develop the qualities necessary in becoming responsible future business leaders of America. Thank you.